We are back from break. Of course, as you know, the whole media portrayal has always been that supporting the troops means supporting any neocon candidate who's ready for another war, supporting anyone who will always go for more empire overseas. But the reality is that the majority of donators to politicians in the military donate to Ron Paul, and there's a reason for that. Joining us now to talk about that and an event to support Ron Paul, specifically with people in the military, I guess active and former, is Adam Kokesh, himself a former serviceman and the head of AdamVersusTheMan.com. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity to promote this event, because it really is such a key one to reaching out to active duty troops and the veterans community with the message of freedom and making sure that they all get what Ron Paul stands for.
Well, I think it's a very important thing to break the misconception and the media spin and delusion and mind control that they've been doing at least since 9/11 with the yellow ribbons and the supporting the troops, all the American flags, that somehow this is okay because it's in the name of the troops.
Absolutely. And this event was really inspired by the suppression of the voice of the active duty, because this inconvenient fact about Ron Paul, that he's gotten more campaign contributions from active duty service members than all other candidates, including Obama combined, is just doing such a disservice to all of those active duty troops who donated, who wanted to hear their voices heard. And so we're making sure that that message gets out with the Ron Paul is the choice of the troops march and rally in Washington, D.C. on President's Day. It's really exciting. It's coming up on Monday. We're going to be rallying at noon at the Monument, marching to the White House in formation, and everybody in that formation will be required to present a proof of service in order to be a part of this event. We're going to do our dress right dress and be right there in front of the White House before we do an about face and a symbolic gesture of repudiation of our president's foreign policy. We are going to turn our backs to the White House, and we're going to hold a flag folding ceremony and have a folded American flag as you would at a soldier's funeral, and render a hand salute and hold it for as many seconds as troops have died since Obama took office, both abroad and by suicide, and then march back to the Washington Monument. So we're very excited to be creating this visual. We're very excited for the opportunity to show that that parallel is there in the veterans community, as there is among the active duty for this. But also, I'm really excited to be providing an opportunity for active duty troops to be talking amongst each other, to be reaching out to each other with this message about questioning our current foreign policy. And it's such a disgrace that military regulations are set up in such a way that the voices of the troops aren't allowed to be heard unless they're serving as props for the president when he gets off Marine One, or when Ben Bernanke wants to use the troops at Fort Hood as backdrop for his speech about his economic shenanigans about what he's doing with the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's disgusting to see how disrespected the troops are in reality compared to the rhetoric, compared to the yellow ribbons. And so
yeah, they're all supposed to shut up, but presidents who didn't even serve, or who did monkey service where they were on paper serving but didn't even really show up for training or anything, they're supposed to speak for what we're doing.
Ron, and even among those token veterans, those who joined the Texas Air National Guard or whatever the case was, simply to be able to check that box, they're all out of the race now. There is only one person running for president in the Republican primary who has ever worn the uniform, and that's Ron Paul. But more importantly, the message here is not that the troops support Ron Paul despite his foreign policy. It's not like they're going, well, we like the constitutional thing and that he's a veteran and the integrity. Those are side benefits. Those are side benefits to the foreign policy, because we want a commander-in-chief, and it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody that those of us who are willing to put our lives on the line to defend this country want a commander-in-chief who's going to be decisive. And when you ask Ron Paul questions about foreign policy, you know he's got the answers. You know he knows how his principles are applied. We want a commander-in-chief who's going to put America's security first, not Israel's, not Afghanistan's, not Iraq's. We want a commander-in-chief who is going to only send the troops in a harm's way with a clear mission and a clear moral imperative, or as Dr. Paul would call it, a constitutional declaration of war. But what's even more exciting to see is that although the troops are being brought to support Ron Paul by his foreign policy message, because we are, as a subculture, not all that different from the rest of the country, we are still creatures of pragmatism too. But when you're looking at this political debate and going, well, is there going to be 100,000 troops or 130,000 troops in Afghanistan? Do I want to be the 130,000th guy that deploys just to die for a politician's mistake? You know, that's the kind of question the troops are asking. When you have your life on the line, you're really motivated to find out what a better foreign policy might be. And they're coming to this message, but they're really coming to it because of the foreign policy, because they don't want to be the last person to die for a mistake or for a lie or for a foreign policy.
For a mistake, Adam, you talk about making clear decisions. Do you remember the presentation where they said the key to winning Afghanistan is deciphering this map with hundreds of points, with terrorism interconnected with the drug smuggling, with the troops not even knowing what side they're working on, all these things? How can we fight a war that way, even if it is just?
Well, when you're out in the field every day, I mean, I can tell you, and you're risking your life every day, and something strikes you funny, you know, and you go, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't be here. Maybe we're creating enemies faster than we can kill them. It really propels you to go all the way down the rabbit hole. And when the troops hear Ron Paul's foreign policy message, and they hear the principles behind it, the golden rule being applied to our foreign policy, as Ron Paul was famously booed for at the debate in South Carolina, they see the same thing in terms of domestic policy. And they're more compelled than the average American, who might be getting along happy-go-lucky every day, to speak out, to question things. But they're up against the establishment within the military and what they perceive through the mainstream media as an effort to silence such voices of dissent. And we're bringing them out to celebrate them with this event. And like I said, we've got an incredible response. But now we've got over 1,600 RSVP'd on our Facebook event page. And, you know, if that comes out to 500 in our actual formation of veterans and active duty troops, that would be incredible. And the visual would be epic and create something that the mainstream media would really have a hard time denying. But more importantly, we've gotten some last-minute support here, and it's exciting to see. We've got some angels coming in with some big donations to get behind some radio ads. We haven't been able to raise that much money independently, but for those of you who are listening who can't be there, who want to be there in spirit, I would ask that you be there with your wallet as well. And check out adamversustheman.com/VFRP, Veterans for Ron Paul. Donate if you can. But if not, if you just want to get active and help out with this most important cause, get on the phone, get on Facebook, get on your email, get in contact with every active duty soldier and veteran you know that's in driving distance from D.C. tonight. Get on the phone, call them. Tell them if they do one thing for you today, if they do one thing for you this year, if they do one thing outside of the military to serve this country, this is it, because their country still needs them. We still need to hear the voices of the veterans, the voices of the active duty troops. We need to grab the rest of the Republican base by the collar and say, wake up. This is not a conservative foreign policy. Ron Paul is the choice of the troops. And we're timing this just so that we have a chance to have an impact for Super Tuesday, which is 2 weeks from next Tuesday. So we're really hoping that this can be a fundamental.
Well, that's the other thing, Adam, is there's so many states yet to vote. People who can't go to D.C. should go to their capitals and the other landmark areas where they are and send that message, because the troops have voted with their dollars. It's, you know the statistics, I know you covered this, it's overwhelmingly in favor of Ron Paul by far. They voted, but the media again decided that's not important news. Yet another celebrity death is the most important news still. And it's just amazing. Talk about that. Just talk about the numbers of the troop donations, because some people probably missed that.
Well, if it was that Ron Paul was just edging out the other candidates by a little bit, you could argue that it wasn't significant. If it was just a horse race and they were neck and neck with a bunch of candidates, maybe you could deny the significance of it. But as of last quarter, they've crunched the numbers again. Ron Paul has gotten more contributions from active duty service members than all others, including Obama put together. And as it comes out, it's usually Ron Paul somewhere between 50, 60%, and of course the numbers fluctuate from quarter to quarter. But it's Ron Paul clearly dominating with somewhere between 50 to 70% even of the donations. Obama with about a quarter, and all other Republican candidates with less than a quarter of those donations. So the support is really overwhelming. But I have one more announcement to make, if I may, about this event. We're having an after party as well. And it's been really exciting to see how many musicians have come out to support Ron Paul. Of course, we had the infamous tweet from Kelly Clarkson. But for this event, we have the cream of the crop of the musical talent of the freedom movement. We've got Amy Allen, Jordan Page, Golden State, and Rebel Inc. all under one roof, all on the same night. But even more exciting than all of that, we had a late addition to the ticket with Michael Graves, former frontman for the Misfits, who came out on my YouTube channel just last week with his first public endorsement of Ron Paul. And it's very exciting to see that he's going to be performing a set for us as well. So we still have a few tickets left. If anybody can be in D.C. on Monday and you want to get a ticket for this, the website is march2whitehouse.com, march2whitehouse.com. Of course, you can find all the info from my website, adamversustheman.com. But we have lots of details on the Facebook event. We have some black and white flyers available now. If people want to print their own and pass them out here, we'd really appreciate it. You know, it's been myself and Nathan Cox who decided as co-founders of Veterans for Ron Paul 2012 that we were going to plant the flag and we were going to make this happen. And we don't have a massive organization. Adam versus the Man is a one-man band production here. And Nathan Cox actually still has a full-time job that has nothing to do with the freedom movement.
Right.
So it's really exciting to see that people are jumping in, but that's what it takes to make an event like this a success. The grassroots are behind it, and they're willing to volunteer and do a little legwork for us as well.
Yeah, and those celebrities that have come forward are just a mark in space of how many people are waking up overall. But getting back to the military aspects, I mean, how many different founding fathers warned against the danger of a standing army? Smedley Butler in the 20th century warning that essentially the military was being used to be a client for corporations in the third world, overseas, and that's what's really happening. Could you talk about those aspects?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the best safeguard against the danger of a standing army is an educated population, and I mean an educated population that includes those who would be picking up guns for the government, and that's why the work of oath keepers is so important, encouraging the troops to honor their oaths to the Constitution over what illegal orders they may receive. So the fact that we've gotten to such a standing army today where the government can, at the drop of a hat, put not just a battalion of Marines on any beach in the world in 24 hours, but deploy divisions without the taxpayers even noticing it because it's already budgeted for, and create the excuses to create special spending bills, because that's really what it's all about. It's all about the exploitation. And you know this, your listeners know this, and this is really the key dynamic here is that wars are fought not for defense, not for revenge or for anything like that. It's for exploitation. It's part of the scam to keep the tax cows slaving away and keep the tax dollars flowing to the beneficiaries of government. And the military-industrial complex is the biggest recipient of this welfare. It's a welfare check. Every time we send a troop out, every time we send a soldier into battle unnecessarily, it's a meal ticket for someone who's doing nothing to serve anybody else here at home other than making military equipment. And that's the real danger of it, is that the standing army creates an opportunity for the government to spend more money. It creates a temptation for the globalists, for the banksters, for the real exploiters in our system to get us to fight each other, to get humans to cause so much pain and suffering, to see what is war but the systematic destruction of human life by machinery, to see that we can be turned to that for their greed. The standing armies are simply a tool for that. But I'm as pessimistic as I might be for the midterm or the short term, except if we do have the chance of getting Ron Paul elected. I do believe there's still a significant chance that makes it worth fighting for his campaign every single day here. You know, I'm an optimist in the long term, but I know that even in this day and age with the internet, when we have such global connectedness, when we're able to have the truth button here, one click away, and see through the lies and see through the propaganda, but at the same time realize our shared humanity, globally speaking, that is the kind of globalism I want to support, that we see that shared humanity. We will be looking back at this day and age, just I feel even just decades from now, and we will look back on this as the most shameful episode in human history, when we thought that war was an acceptable means of conflict resolution in any way, that we were able to do this. And when we look at the political system today, I mean, as Stefan Molyneux has said, I can't imagine people looking back from the future and seeing that we weren't just faking this for everybody's amusement, because it's become so absurd. But at the same time, it's become so tragic. It's become so painful. And for those of us who have seen it firsthand, we want to make it stop.